Hi there, I'm Clifford Bates, and welcome once again to reading Aristotle's Nicomachean Ethics. Today we're continuing our examination of and reading of Book 7 of the Ethics, which deals with the question of self-restraint and lack of self-restraint. And today we'll look at Chapter 8 on the licentious person. So let's look at it. Continue, Chapter 8. The licentious person, as we said, is not characterized by regret, for he abides by his choice. But every person lacking self-restraint is apt to feel regret. So therefore, the difference, licentious person, no regret. If it's if this is the lack of self-restraint, I regret. Okay, hence the perplexity at the issue is not in fact as we encountered it. That is 38. Consider what we said there, the early perplexity of the issue. Is not how, in fact, how we counted it. Rather, the licentious person is incurable. The person lacking self-restraint is curable. In other words, it's not like this. Rather, it's that because they recognize that. In other words, the if I have remember if you have no regrets, no regrets, you're not gonna be able to reform you. If you have no regrets, this is not something that you can change, reform. The one who has regrets, then you can maybe reform them or change them or improve them. So therefore, this is the thing. For every person lacking self-restraint, therefore has the person, every person having akrasia, right, is apt to feel regret. Hence, this is why it's not curable. The licentious person is incurable, and the person lacking self-restraint is curable, right? For corruption seems to be like such diseases like dropsy and consumption, whereas lack of self-restraint is like an epileptic seizure. The former defective condition being contentious, 2939 is the word porneia means is wicked. It can be translated as a weakness, this defective, a wicked condition. The former wicked condition being contentious, the latter not contentious. In other words, this is something that you can't contend. It's like you can't. This one, corruption is, you can. It is this wicked condition. Corruption is like a dropsy or consumption. In other words, it's contentious, dangerous in that sense. Whereas the other one is it's inconvenient, but it's not contentious. In other words, it's not contentious in that sense. Doesn't harm the body in the fundamental sense. It just disrupts it. The seizures or epileptic seizure. Okay. It's the former defective condition being contentious or a vicious thing. This is, in other words, corruption is like dropsy, and this is this is contentious. It can get worse. It's bad. It can get worse. If not treated, gets worse and worse. Here, well, it's just, it's, you can't help it. It's not contentious in the sense. In general, the genus to which lack self restraint belongs, akrasia belongs, is different from that to which vice belongs. For vice escapes the notice of one who has it, whereas lack of self-restraint does not escape the notice of those lacking self-restraint. In other words, the vicious people doesn't know they're doing. People. Remember, Aristotle always said that we do things because we think it's good. The person who who does vicious things doesn't think it's wrong to do so. They think it was the best choice. It was the right thing to do. It was the correct action. It was correct. They err in that, and this is why Socrates said they're ignorance. But this is the problem about this. This is why Aristotle and Plato, Socrates kind of differ on this question. He argues that, well, it's not only ignorance; there's something defective. There's something wrong with them. It's corruption in that sense. And education may not be able to solve it. In other words, that you can't reform, that someone who is corrupt is not reformable in the sense that if it's so unrestrained, that stuff. And he goes, let's go. Belongs to a different character than to what vice is. For vice escapes the notice of no one. For vice escapes the notice of one who has. They don't think they don't know. They don't think what they're doing is vicious. Whereas lack of self-restraint does not escape the notice of the one who lacks. They realize, I wish I did it. I wanted to do that, but I didn't do that because of the fact that I have the inability to restrain myself. Among people lacking self-restraint, those apt to be impulsive. Okay, 40 is the word here. Eklasotai, the same word as translated one who departs from calculation at 1145 AB, but here the word seems equivalent to keen and melchonic, right? So therefore, this is that one who departs. But those apt to be, this is a translation. This is not. This is an interpretation. This thing here, they're interpreting an impulsive. I would maybe it would be literally one who departs. The one who departs are better. Who doesn't do what they design. They fail to do. The one who departs in that sense, the ekosoi, the one who departs in that sense, are better than those who are in possession of an argument. Those who simply just don't do it because they don't understand. They don't foot because they just can't help themselves. It's impulsive, right? It's impulsive. That's not things. So that's impulsive is a good translation interpretation of this line. Those who are in possession of an argument are logos, but do not abide. They have an argument. They have a rationale. They have a logoi, but don't abide by it. In other words, those who don't. This person is the one who simply has no argument. Who has no reason. Simply just has lack self-restraint. Who are impulsive is better than those who know what is to do and don't do it, right? But do not abide by it. For these latters are defeated by lesser passion than that which overwhelms the impulsive, and are not without a prior deliberation as the impulsive. In other words, they have a prior deliberation. The impulsive does not have a prior deliberation. So they have a deliberation, they have reason, but they then don't follow it. Okay, this is worse than the one who simply just acts and didn't have deliberation, right? The person lacking self-restraint in this latter sense is similar to those who get drunk quickly and on little wine. That is, on less wine than most people do. In other words, the person lacking self-restraint in this latter sense, right? This impulsive, see, okay, that's the latter. The latter sense here is what? The latter sense here. For the latter are defeated by lesser passions than that which overwhelms the impulsive, than that which the impulsive. So therefore, the person lacking self-restraint in this latter sense, the impulsive sense, or the one, in other words, the ones who is, yeah, the impulsive. They get drunk quickly on little wine, less wine. The impulsive one is the person whose passions are so powerful. So this guy who gets little wine gets me drunk. The less wine than the average person does. In other words, little wine, that is on less wine than most people, than do most people get drunk. So this is the typical person, the median or the average person, the amount of wine they get drunk. This guy gets drunk on less. Therefore, this is like the impulsive. This is the person lacking self-restraint. In this case, uh, 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 are similar to those who get drunk quickly. In other words, The self-restraint one here is the one who, what? They can't resist it. They can't resist it. There's lack of self-restraint does not escape the notice of those lacking self-restraint. Among the people lacking self-restraint, those apt to be impulsive are better off than those who do it like this. But then what? The person lacking self-restraint in this latter sense, impulsive, okay, this is the impulsive one. This is examination of the impulsive. Next, it is manifest then that lack of self-restraint is not vice. So lack of self-restraint is not vice. Accuracy is not vice, but perhaps it is in a certain way. So that it is manifest that a lack of it is not a vice, but perhaps it is. Lack of self-restraint is contrary to one's choice. Lack of self-restraint is contrary to one's choice. Vice is in accord with one choice, right? That's why they're not similar, right? There's choice. There's lack of self-restraint is I would choose this, but I don't do it. Here is I choose it, right? That's vice. Nevertheless, they are similar, at least when it comes to actions. In other words, just as Democles says about the Milesians, Milesians are not stupid, but they do the things stupid people do. Originally from the small island of Lessos, just opposite of Miletus, Democles is today known for his comic lines quoted. And those lacking self-restraint are not unjust, though they will commit injustices. In other words, the lack of self-restraint is what? It's like they're stupid. Milesians are not stupid, but they do the things that stupid people do. And therefore, what? Those lacking self-restraints are not unjust, but they will commit injustices. The person lacking self-restraint is such as to pursue the person lacking self-restraint is such as to pursue the bodily pleasures that are excessive and contrary to correct reason, without his having been persuaded to do so. So that in other words, the self-restraint is not persuaded to do this. Whereas the licentious person has been so persuaded on his account of being the sort of person who pursues them. He chooses them. The lack of self-restraint doesn't choose him. He does it, but he doesn't choose to do it. He pursues the bodily pleasures that are excess and contrary to reason without him being persuaded to do so. This person has been persuaded, essentially. Given this, it is the person lacking self-restraint who can easily be persuaded otherwise, not the licentious one. For virtue preserves and corruption destroys the principle. And in action, and in actions, that for the sake of which one acts is the principle. So why is one acting? Just as in the given hypothesis are in mathematics. In other words, in mathematics, the hypothesis, the if then, the hypothesis I'm doing, the given hypothesis, right? The hypothesis is that this is why I'm doing. This is being done for this reason, right? So therefore, the principle is that in other words, the principle is the arche, the starting point, and then the hypothesis follows from this, right? That's in mathematics. In action, the reason why I'm acting, why am I that for the sake which one acts is the arche, the principle. So in neither case is reason, logos or argument, such. So in neither case is reason or argument such as to teach the principles. So in neither case, in this the licentious nor that, is a reason such as to teach the principle, the arches. But virtue, either natural habitual, is apt to teach one to hold the correct opinion. Um, the verb here is hold the correct opinion, orthodoxin, contains elements of the English word orthodoxy, right? Orthodoxin. Um, uh, uh, in other words, so in neither case is reason or argument such as to teach the principles, but virtue, either natural or habitual, is apt to teach one to hold the correct opinion, orthodoxin, about the arche in question. Such a person is sophosune, moderate, his contrary, licentious. In other words, I choose to this. In other words, it's that I am either through habit, either but virtue. So neither is reason such as to teach the principles, but virtue, either natural or this, is apt to teach one to hold the correct opinion about this, about the arche in the question. Such a person having virtue is the moderate one, that they know what is the reason. They have a reason, they have a rationale to do this, and they have a guide. And that they either through habit or through virtue, in other words, habit or natural. They have this, they're either natural or they have virtue, and either natural virtue or habituated virtue is apt to teach them to hold the correct opinion about this question, the arche in this question of what is to be done. Such a person then is moderate, sophisunos, is contrary, is licentious. Okay, so let's think about this. So therefore, the one who virtue preserves, corruption destroys. Um, the question is that for the sake of what you ask, they're having the reason for this. So neither case, therefore, this is why and the licentious person simply chooses against it. Licentious one doesn't hear the reason, right? But therefore, that the natural or habitual virtue cannot correct, because those you just can correct the correctable one, can teach, is able to teach to hold the correct opinion, the orthodoxo. Doxin, and that's that, right? About the arcane question. This is therefore such a person then who holds that opinion, who can then do it, right? Who knows what is right and does what is right. This is the moderate person, and is like opposite the one who chooses what is not right and does what is not right is licentious. There is also a sort of person who is apt, on account of his passions, to depart from correct. The part is 43. Again, this is ekastratos, means you know, not foul from correct reason, a person whom passion overpowers, such that he does not act in accord with correct reason. Yet the passion in question does not overpower him so that he becomes the sort of person to be persuaded that he ought to pursue pleasures of this kind without restraint. In other words, but yet the passion in question does not overpower him so that he becomes the sort of person to be persuaded that he ought to pursue pleasures of this kind without restraint. So, in other words, it doesn't make him go too far. In other words, there's a passion question that does not the passion does allows him to his passion to depart from correct reason. A person whose passion overpowers, such that he does not act with the correct reason. Yet the passion in question does not overpower him so that he becomes the sort of person to be persuaded that he ought to pursue pleasures of this kind without restraint. This is the person lacking self restraint, who is better than the licentious one. So, therefore, it's not that this person does it, but he's not being persuaded to do that without self restraint. In other words, he's not persuaded, this person is not overpowered him. Yet the passion in question does not overpower him so that he becomes the sort of person to be persuaded that he ought to do this. In other words, the pleasure. In other words, eventually it doesn't lead him to change his position. That he chooses it. In other words, the passion isn't strong enough that he will automatically default to choose it, to enjoy it. In other words, to do it, to choose it. So therefore, when he chooses it, he's no longer able to be corrected. In other words, he's not open to this. He's pursuit of this kind without restraint. In other words, he is not persuaded to do this, choose it, choose it. So he still does it at this point, but he knows he shouldn't. Right? He knows he shouldn't, and he's not going to choose it. He would. His rational part still chooses the right thing, but lacks the ability to restrain. Right? This is that thing. Right? This person lacking self-restraint, who is better than licentious, and is not unqualifiedly base. In other words, he's not simply base or vicious. What is best in him, the arche, is preserved. He knows that this is the right thing to do. It's there. He knows it's still. His mind knows that this is this what he ought to do. In other words, therefore, the principle is preserved. But then another sort is his contrary. That is the self-restrained person who is apt to abide by and not depart from correct reason. He is able to abide by and not by correct reason, at at least not on account of his passions. So in other words, there is the contrary to this is the self-restrained person. That is the self-restrained person who is apt to abide by and not depart from correct reason, at least not on account of passions. So it is manifest from these considerations that the one characteristic is serious and the other base. In other words, another sort of this is contrary. This person. In other words, what is the base one? The base one is the one who chooses it, right? Who chooses it, or is what that is so corrupted that that even if he ultimately forgoes and chooses the thing that. In other words, it's not simply that he overpowers it, is that he chooses it. In other words, one may have no passion, but he chooses it. That's the worst. The one who chooses it because he has the passion, that's still bad. But the one who chooses it because he doesn't choose it, he knows what is right, he chooses the right, but he does the other thing because the passion is overwhelmed by it, right? This is that the person lacking self-restraint is better than the licentious one, and is not unqualifiedly based, right? He's based because why? Because he does, in the sense that what he does, if what he succumbs to is unjust, unnoble, and bad, then it's more so. But the thing that is less unnoble, if the excess of his thing can make it worse, like that. Remember that in the earlier chapter. So the contrary thing here is that that is the self-restrained person who is apt to abide by and not depart from correct reason. At least not on account of passion. He's not going to. It's not. He won't abide this. In other words, this person. In other words, the contrary, the self-restrained person who is apt to abide by and not depart from correct reason. So the self-restrained person who does bad things, that's base. But the serious one is what? One characteristic serious, that is to choose the right and to not succumb to the passions, right? The other one is to choose uh, um, choose the wrong thing, but also one to the question is what's base about it, about the lacking self restraint, is that but it's the question of the degree of his inability to restrain himself. It's over great minor passions. He just doesn't resist to the minor passions. If it's a strong passion that we understand it, it's still wrong. It's, in other words, it's not unqualifiedly based. But the one who does it, in other words, it's still better than licentious in that sense. Both of them are better than licentious, but this is the problem: is the other is based, right? The licentious is based. But then the one who does correct things is serious in a sense. This last one is serious. So let's stop here. If you have any comments or questions, please put it in the question areas and I will respond to it when I see it. If you've liked the video, hit the like button, please. Hit like, it helps. It helps the algorithm. The more likes you get, the algorithm increases and people will see it, see this video if they search for it. Another thing you can do is if you've share this video to your friends, share in your social media, share it, send a link to someone that you know that might be interested in this. If you've not subscribed, please consider subscribing. Again, this helps the channel. The more people it grows, the more options we get. Another thing is if you didn't like what we did, you can always thumbs down it, but say why in the comments so people can benefit from it and maybe learn. This is the purpose of this, is learning. Explain why you didn't like what I did or so I'm wrong. Another thing is you want to follow me on social media. The social media links are listed below. If you want to know more about me as a scholar and as a researcher, the academic, and see my scholarship and things like that, beneath the social media links are the academic social media links that will that direct you to those sites and that deal with my academic research and things like that. Those of you who want to help me what I'm doing a little bit financially in that sense, you can do so through Patreon or Subscribestar, or you can buy one of my books, and you can do so with the 3 books listed below. You can do so through your local bookstore or through an online seller like Amazon, Barnes & Noble, etc. Or you can order it through the publisher themselves. Again, some publishers better than others. If you really want to help me, if those of you studying Aristotle's politics and wish to buy my notebook for Aristotle's politics, buying it from Lulu is better than buying it from the online seller, because what happens is I get the money that the online seller gets from Lulu. That's not true with the other 2 books in that sense. Okay, that's it. That's all I can talk about right now today. We look at next time chapter 9 in our next video, and we'll see you then. Take care. Bye-bye. Have a good day.